We are reaching it by means typically of a scaffold. Now we do have some lifts, but they're a little unsteady for the steady hand that you mentioned that we need up there. And so by having a scaffold with the brakes set, and by the way, when two of us are working, we have to have our own scaffolds because one moves at a different time to reload or whatever. And by the way, we keep our paint in a can around our neck, so we don't have to set any tool down. We simply load our brush right here, and it is not cost effective to lay on your back. You can't even move around. So we stand up, looking up, and load our brush, strike it off, and do our work.
How many hours at a time can you look up like that?
8 hours. You know, I'm able to do that. It does get to the small of my back after a while, but I can do that without a problem.
And are you're seeing the original pattern underneath still? I mean, you're following lines that you can see? Or
Actually,
are you...
we are following lines we can see, but we've had to put them up there because it was all new plaster. We use a method that has been used, and from what I understand, originated by the Chinese, where they make a pattern on a material that's flexible, and they poke holes into it with a pin. And then that is laid on the surface. We put it on the ceiling, and then we use a bag that has charcoal in it. And we tap that, and it leaves a dotted line wherever those holes are. And we had to make patterns for that entire ceiling.
And the patterns, are they you used as models? I mean, you have patterns from the restoration, or?
The only pattern we have from the restoration is what is on the ceiling down below. Right straight below the ceiling that we began on, there is a room of similar size. Now, because they have had to bring the cornice out in that room, it is actually 2 foot narrower. So I had to trace one quadrant of the room and then expand that design on a large easel that was 10 foot by 18 foot. And then once I expanded that, then we made our patterns off the expanded design.
So we're talking about restoring the ceiling in one of the rooms in the Capitol, but your work encompasses a lot more than, well, the painting part, but there's also plaster work, and
yes.
You mentioned, I think, gilding and some of the woodwork. What are some of the other things that you have to do?
Well, part of my assignment is to help maintain the historicity of a space. So throughout the history of the building, technology has always taken its toll. The state, being what it is, a seat of government, has always been on the leading edge of technology. But that has always left its mark because technology changes. The way something is mounted, the location of where it's mounted, all of those things have changed. So now, for example, one of the latest things that I was involved with, some members of the Senate came to me and said they would like to mount a 42-inch LCD TV in the lobby, so that if as a legislator is out there talking with a lobbyist or whoever, he knows what's going on in the chambers themselves. Well, how do we accommodate that and still keep the historic look of it? They wanted to mount it on the wall, which would not have worked according to the criteria that I'm trying to help follow. So let me design a cabinet then that looks like it belongs in the space. And when you need that, you open it up, slide the doors out of the way. The bottom part of it is an armoire. If a legislator is inclined to not lay his coat down, he can actually hang it right in that armoire. And so it functions for that purpose, and yet looks like it belongs to the space. Elijah Meyer set a guideline.
And he was the Capitol architect.
That's right. And so when someone comes to me and asks for a project like that, they say, well, we don't want it very ornate. I said, well, you know, how about if we let Elijah Meyer decide how ornate to make it? So in this case, we went in and looked at the rostrum in the front of the Capitol, or in the Senate chamber. And of course, it's very ornate. And to me, that's the guideline we follow. Everyone is worried a little bit about spending too much time or money or whatever, but it seems appropriate to honor him by letting his precedent be ours. And so I try to find that happy medium to where it is ornate without being too much so. And so far I feel like I've been successful in doing that.
So you're doing the woodwork yourself, for the carving? And
Actually, I don't have the means to do the woodwork, but I draw the drawings full scale. And the Senate has a carpenter shop, some men who are very, very skillful. The house also does. And in the case of this armoire, and that was to hold the TV, I submitted a set of plans to both of them. They both built the same cabinet. And they bring me the parts that need to be carved before they're put on, and then I carve them and give them back to them, and it's put together. And it's been wonderful to have such a collaborative effort with these entities.
so when you say you're carving the parts, what does that involve?
That means that I actually have a number of sets of carving tools, different sizes, so that once I design a part that I want to carve, then they bring it to me, and I actually do the wood carving with these carving tools. They're hand tools, they're not power tools. I try to, of course, make any motif or any design to be somewhere else in the building. I let that be my guide as to what to make it.
My guest is Bill Finch, and Mr. Finch is the master decorative painter here at the state capitol. He recently received a Michigan Heritage Award from Michigan State University. And Bill, we've talked about your work with painting and some of the woodworking. We only have a couple minutes left, but maybe you should briefly touch on plastering. That's also one of your skills.
Yes. Plastering is a wonderful art form, and has been around for millenniums. And our work essentially results right now in having to make small castings of broken elements that are on the capitals of the pilasters or the columns. And sometimes we'll have a damage in a cornice where we actually will have to cut the profile of the cornice and put new plaster in there. There's what they call a horse that is made that goes up against the wall and actually scrapes along the fresh plaster. You put fresh plaster in there again and do it again until everything is filled in. So we have to do that from time to time to make a repair like that in the cornice. What my concern is that I'm not going to be able to pass this on so that it continues to be done in an appropriate way. That's when and if I leave the Capitol, that will always be my biggest concern, and I think needs to be the concern of others about how that building's going to be kept up.
Are there other buildings like the Capitol in Michigan that have ongoing master decorative painters helping to maintain them?
To my knowledge, there is not. The reservoir of people who do, and not that I'm unique totally, but all of the different disciplines, which are trades and arts in themselves, that I have within one person here, is a very rare thing. I'm quick and I want to pass this on. Otherwise, we'd be calling in 20, 30 different contractors to have to do those things. So that's why it seems imperative for me to be able to train a person who wants to stay on for the next 25 or 30 years and do the same quality that we've got there. It deserves it. It's a National Historic Landmark. One of the reasons is because of the use of the decorative arts in that building.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bill, thanks so much for coming on my program, and thank you even more for your work in keeping the Capitol in such good condition and maintaining all the intricate work that's there. It is part of the history and the heritage of Michigan, and you've made it a beautiful place to work and to serve in. So I appreciate the work you've done, and congratulations on your award.
Well, thank you very much. It's a privilege, really, to be working in that building.
Thanks for watching my program, Current Events with State Senator Tom George. I'll be back next month.